Jeff, can you tell us a little about your plane?
Yeah, this is a Barracuda. It's primarily made out of wood, believe it or not, and it was designed by a guy named Geoffrey Siers in the mid-70s. He built the prototype, and then he flew it to Oshkosh, and he got the new design of the year award that year, 1976. Then he started selling plans, and people bought them. It was really, in 1976, this was kind of the Glasair, Lansair of its day. It's a retractable gear. You can put up to 300 horsepower in it, and it's very fast, about 200 miles an hour, and a good performer, two-place, very much ahead of its time. And let's see, this particular airplane has a Continental IO 360, 210 horsepower, and it's a delightful plane to fly. Little history, I bought the prototype Barracuda from Mr. Siers, and I had that for a number of years. I had a few little mishaps with it when the nose gear didn't come down, and rebuilt it once, and then the second time I decided to donate it to a church. And I found this one up in Paradise, California. It hadn't been flown, and it hadn't been finished actually. And a guy by the name of Urban Cote had started building it in 1976. The N number, if you can see it over here, is November 85 Uniform Charlie. Uniform Charlie stands for Urban Cote, who started building it. And 1985 was the year that he thought that this plane would actually be finished and flying. He was off by about 30 years because it flew in 2015. But Urban built most of it, and then he got a terminal illness, and he knew that he was not going to be able to finish it. So he sold it to Ken Yaskowitz in Paradise, California. And Ken worked on it for a while, and then he started building an RV-12, and he thought, well, maybe I should sell this. So I bought it, and then 2 years later, the whole town burned down. Paradise, California went up in smoke. And anyway, I brought the plane home, and I thought it had about another month to go as far as finishing it up. And about a year later, I finally flew it for the first time. And let's see, that's about the history of this thing. As I said, it's made out of wood. The wings are wood, the fuselage is wood. It was a plans-built only plane, so this was not a kit. You had to hand make every single part that went into this. Now, at some point, Jeff Siers' two sons, Richard was one of them, I forget the name of his other child, but when they were little kids, they helped him build this plane. And they decided they were going to kind of keep it going, and they published a builder's manual, and they started selling plans. And unfortunately, it was just an awful lot of work to build this thing completely from scratch. So it kind of fizzled out. There are just a handful of these planes around. You can find projects, but I only know of about three planes that are actually, three of these Barracudas are actually flying, because it was just so much work to build them. Let's see.
Well, what can you tell us about that big flap that goes
Oh yeah,
in the
that
middle?
flap. This is a flap. It goes all the way, if you can look, it goes all the way through the fuselage. and it goes down about 40 degrees. And
A lot of flap.
it's a lot of flap. When I flew with Geoffrey Siers in the prototype, he put the flaps down and we kept pulling the power back until the airspeed indicator indicated 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if it was because we had it pitched way up or anything, but it was going slow. And what Jeff told me, he said, well, you just don't want to stall it with full flaps because it just points itself straight down. So I hardly ever, the only time I use full flaps is when I get into the plane. And usually when I come in, I just keep it around 20 degrees. And you can put 5 degrees, 10 degrees of flap to take off, but you don't have to. It's got so much power. It just does just fine.
Can we take a peek inside the cockpit?
You bet. It's got these gull wing doors, and it's got, you know, the steam gauges. It's very VFR, shall we say.
And the steam gauges just indicate the round gauges.
Yeah, they're just round gauges. And that was, when I bought the plane, it had all the gauges in. It also had the part of the interior in. And someone told me, it looks like a coffin in there. So at some point, I'm gonna redo the interior.